Okay, so in this lab, we're going to configure some IP addresses on devices, test basic connectivity, and just explore how the ping ICMP, echo and reply, and the ARP function looks like on a network. So to get started, we're going to set up our lab. That's the first thing we want to do. And we're going to use this as an example. Our devices needed and our networking address that is given. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we need 2 PCs. Now, disclaimer, this is all in Cisco Packet Tracer. So make sure that you have Cisco Packet Tracer downloaded and just played around with a little bit of the functions as far as devices and how to save a file and that good stuff. All right. So moving forward, let's go ahead and get us set this lab up. So we have our PCs. 2 PCs is what we need. And let's make that a little bigger. We have our 2 PCs, and then we have our switch. Let's just do a regular switch here. And then we need a router, okay? We can do a 2911. Okay? Then we have to connect our devices together. This is a good practice for you to understand which cables will connect. So if we want to do a PC and a switch, would we use a straight through cable or a crossover cable? A crossover cable is to connect to the same devices, right? And then a straight through cable is to connect unlike devices. So crossover, same devices, straight through, unlike devices. So if we want to connect the PC and the switch, we would do a straight through cable. Okay, now we can also select fast Ethernet and fast Ethernet 1. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to PC 2 over here, fast Ethernet 2. Okay, now we have to connect our router, our switch and our router together. We need a cable. Is this a straight through cable or a crossover cable? So are they 2 alike or are they 2 different? Okay, and let's do gigabit 0. All right, that's good. Let's put this over here. Can we probably come in a little more? There we go. That's good. So now we have our setup. Now we have to do our IP addresses, but I'm going to name this PC1. Oh, of course. Okay. I'm going to name this PC2 so I don't get confused, and name this PC1 so I don't get confused. Boom. So the first step after setting up our topology, we have to configure our IP addresses. The IP is given. So on PC1, let's go to PC1. You just click on it, okay? I'm going to bring it over here, and let me move this out of my way. And you're going to click on desktop, which is here at the top. And in desktop, we want to go to IP configuration. Now, if you were working as a network admin, as an example, yeah, you would go into the computer and you can manually configure an IP address, or you can give it an IP address via DHCP. We'll talk about that later. Now, an IP address for PC1, it gave us, we're going to use what's given, which is 192.168.1.0. You can click out of that and it will automatically give you a subnet mask that's in the class. So 192 is always in a class C, which is a /24. And as you can see here, it's written in decimal format, 255.255 right here, 255.0. All right. Now it has an IP address. It has the subnet mask. Now what we also have to do is set the default gateway. The default gateway is the IP address that allows your PC to talk outside of its network. That has to live on a layer 3 device, which is a router. The router is right here. So let's go ahead and put 192.168.1.1. That's given. It is our default, our router's IP address. Okay, it's given. Now over here in this diagram, you see that these are green, these are red. Okay, this is where we're going to end up configuring on the router our default gateway so we can now have communication between PC1 and the gateway. All right, so that's all saved. We can exit and exit. What you're going to have to do is the same thing on PC2. You have to do the same thing on the PCs that, all the PCs that are in your network, right? So PC2, we have 192, we're at 168.1.20. Going to give us a subnet mask already. And the default gateway, we want it to be the same, okay? All our devices on the network have the same default gateway, all right? So, and then that's saved. Now, what we have to do is we have to go to the router and add an IP address to the router so we can have communication, because there's communication here and there's communication here. So we open up the router. We have to go to the CLI right here in the middle. All right. So when you first plug in the router, it will give you a system configuration dialog. We don't care about that right now because all we care about is adding an IP. Okay, we'll go through that later. Or maybe you should have went through that already, just to give you some curious, just to, because you were curious. So say no, and you're just going to press enter. And I'm going to see if I can put it like this. Maybe you can see it better. Okay, so this is the router. So the first thing we have to do is get into enable mode. You can say enable, the whole word, or you can say EN, it's up to you, but make sure you get into enable mode. Then we're going to go into the configuration terminal. So we got ConFT, shorthand, but configure terminal. That's what it is, configure terminal. Okay, boom. So now we are in the configuration terminal. So now we have to do is go into the interface, gigabit 0/0. I believe that's what we had. And as you can see, I am in the interface. So it's the configuration terminal of this interface, which is G0/0. What do I want to do? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to configure an IP address. So I got to put in IP address and then add the IP address, which is 192.168.1.1, right? Yes. And then we have to add our subnet mask because it doesn't do that for us already. And 255.255.255.0. Okay, /24. That's it. We're going to enter. And then if it was not the correct command, it would have gave us an error, but it didn't, and let us continue on creating commands. Now for a router, what you have to do is you have to say no shutdown. I say no, it's good if you spell right. I say no shut, it takes the same thing, but for exam purposes, no shutdown is what you want to say. As you can see, there's a system logging here, syslog, and it's link 5. Link 5 is the notification number, and then it's telling you the link, and then it's telling you what happened and it changed. So this is just a notification system logging, and it's telling you that the interface gigabit 0/0 had changed state to up. It is not down anymore. And you can literally just say exit to exit out of the interface and still be in the command configuration terminal, or you can do end, which will take you all the way back to enable mode. All right. So we set up our IPs. We set up our IPs on our PC1, PC2, and our router. Why didn't we set up an IP on our switch? Layer 2. That's why. Layer 2 switches is all deals with MAC only. So let's test ping, right? This is an ICMP troubleshooting tool. So the first thing we can do is go to PC1. Okay, we can go into our command prompt and we can do our desktop and then command prompt, and we can say ping, P-I-N-G. And what do we want to do? We want to ping PC2. So we remember PC2's IP 192.168.1.20 and enter. And as you can see here, hopefully you can. But as you can see, we have a reply. We have a ping reply, and it's saying like, hey, there is connection. You can check right here, packets. There was 4 packets sent to test connectivity between PC1. Can PC1 talk to PC2? Okay, and the reply came back and said, yes, you can talk to this. There is a good connection. There was no packets lost. Everything is good. The TTL, time to live, you can reply, you know what I'm saying? This, you can talk to this .20, okay? And you can literally do the same thing on PC2, ping PC1's IP address. I think you can pause this and ping it on the other side. But for video time's sake, let's go ahead and ping the router. So we can do ping. And what's the router's IP? 192.168.1.1. And enter. And as we can see, we're getting replies as well. 0 packet loss. And that helps you, again, with troubleshooting to see, do I even have connectivity to the next device in line? All right. Now, another thing I want to show you is ARP, right? The address resolution protocol in action. This is just one instance of it, but I do want to show you in a simple basic form. So staying in PC1 or whichever PC that you ran your troubleshooting commands in, we can do ARP space -A, A as an apple, okay? We're gonna say enter. And right here is what it brings is a ARP table, an address resolution table. And these are the mappings of IP to MAC addresses, right? So you can see here, this IP is our default gateway. It's our router's interface. And this physical address is the router. And then we have this one right here, which is PC2 IP address, which is, this is the physical MAC address of PC2. And we got that by dynamically. We'll talk a little bit more about dynamic and static when it comes to IP addresses, but this is where you can see the ARP table and how it made an ARP request. We'll talk about more, you'll see us dive more in these concepts, but this is what I want you guys to do in the lab, all right? So what we did, we configured basic IP settings for 2 PCs and a router. We tested connectivity using IMCP, our ping command, and we observed ARP in action and mapping IP addresses to MAC addresses. So I encourage you to explore more with ICMP, even maybe using traceroute, maybe adding more computers or another router to this configuration and testing out connectivity.